Weather impact alert for this morning, but generally for the entire day. Now we have our high wind warning and our wind advisory until 9 a.m. We are expecting wind gusts to average out between 50 and 60 miles per hour. And we have already seen a few spots get upwards of 66 and 68 mile per hour wind gusts. That would be in Carroll and of course at the Des Moines airport. So what you need to do this morning, build in time. We're not seeing the blizzard-like conditions everywhere, but we are seeing it just north of Ames. And even if you take the blowing snow factor away, this still creates a very windy situation if you're driving on the roads, especially out on the interstates and highways. So peak wind gusts so far have generally averaged between 45 and 55 miles per hour. But of course, two standouts. Des Moines recorded 66 miles per hour just around 4:30 a.m. And then Carroll recorded 68 mile per hour wind gusts just before 4 a.m. this morning. So some of these may not still be happening, but this is what we are capable of. And we're not even at the peak moment where we're going to see this have as much coverage with that potential wind gust hitting that 55 mile per hour plus on a more widespread basis. So by 6 a.m., looking at the average of being around 46 miles per hour, meaning we will have more areas getting to that higher end once we get to, unfortunately, in that morning commute time. And we do see this start to fall off. So this expires at 9 a.m. We're still seeing wind gusts around 37 miles per hour. The high wind warning and the wind advisory expire due to the conditions being below those standards. That does not mean we are not going to see a windy setup for the rest of the day. This does start to improve throughout the day and getting into the evening, even though sustained wind dropping off to where by Thursday morning, we're barely even looking at a wind, and it does start to move out of the south. But outside right now, across Des Moines, not so much for blizzard-like conditions. We got very warm yesterday, and we are just now getting down to the freezing line. So a lot of that snowfall melted away, and now we're seeing that crust develop. It makes it a lot heavier, much more difficult for this wind to pick it up. But keep in mind, the sustained wind at the Des Moines airport right now is at 44 miles per hour, and that is on the higher end comparatively, but still, sitting between 30 and 45 is a very likely scenario for the rest of the morning. So looking at temperatures just now getting to the freezing line, and even some areas still sitting above it, meaning a lot of us will get rid of that snowfall that's been with us for nearly 2 weeks. That all finally fades away. Now this afternoon, holding it around the mid to upper 20s before nighttime sends us back down to the lower 20s and even seeing the upper teens. And then we start looking at our next couple of weather impact alert days. That comes as early as tomorrow as this next band of snow starts to develop. Now this is going to have a bit of an interesting twist with it as it wants to give us this wintry mix on the backside as the mid-level has a good push of warm air. I still think the majority of this will come down as snowfall, but snowfall amounts will stay generally around an inch at absolute best. We get through that and we start looking at Saturday being the next, call it substantial round of snowfall for us. This covers the majority of us, could leave us with at least a good setup to see 2 to 4 inches of snowfall. And the sky clearing up behind it, of course, means we are looking at a very cold setup coming our direction for this weekend. Down into the negatives for Sunday morning. Truly seeing an average around -6, meaning some spots could be down to around -10 to maybe even -15, and only getting to a high of 10 for Sunday afternoon. This has been the case. The coldest days have the sunshine, but it does at least lead to a warming trend that gives us a couple of days where we're sitting above the freezing line, at least for the afternoons. Now, Wednesday's chance of rainfall is, of course, cold front driven, but now we're seeing the intensity of these start to fall off as we get a little more southwesterly flow mixed in. So it does leave us, once again, chance of rainfall, maybe even some wintry mix, but we still have more time above freezing as we slowly start to establish the back half of December having the potential for a warming trend. Joseph.